Hello sweet people, and welcome back to my channel, or if it is your first time here, welcome especially. I'm Sally and it means a lot that you've stopped by. One of the video requests I have received most frequently is to film a video talking about early morning breakfast ideas for when you don't necessarily have an appetite. So that's what we are doing today. Before we dive into it, please don't forget to like this video if you like this type of content, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Up real quick about why we want to eat breakfast early in the morning even if we don't have an appetite. So when we wake up, it is, if we wake up naturally, facilitated usually, at least in part, by our cortisol levels rising. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. It's actually, very important, cortisol is. However, we don't want to live off stress hormones. And if you're waking up to an alarm, that's also probably not helping in the stress hormone department, at least if I am speaking for myself. But anyways, while cortisol does serve an important role, we don't want to live off it. We want it to cycle normally. And how we can stop cortisol from just continuing to rise and kind of dominating our day, and instead, facilitate happy hormones and the proper kind of fuel in our body. What we can do is, eat breakfast, and of course, make sure we're getting something balanced, something that has protein, carbs, and fat in it, which I recognize can be especially hard in the morning when it might feel hard to get something down. And just so y'all know, if you are waking up not hungry at all in the morning, even if you didn't really have a big breakfast the night before, that can actually be a sign that your metabolism does need some attention. And so it can be good to use these ideas or other things that work for you just to get at least a little bit of something in your body, which can ultimately jumpstart your metabolism for the rest of the day. So one practical tip before we dive into this, just try to chew slowly, take little bites. It really sounds simple, it is, but it makes all the difference, at least for me, when I just slow down, really take my time. It doesn't make me feel as yucky as like if I'm just trying to rush through it and get it down. Even if you have to eat in the car or something like that, just try to be mindful of it. But getting into the ideas, the first three are super simple and don't really require much prep on your end at all. First is going to be cottage cheese. I forgot about cottage cheese for the longest time, but as a kid, I loved this stuff. And I know why. Like now I am obsessed with it once again because first of all, the macronutrient ratios are amazing. Like you're getting so much protein, and even with the full fat version, you're not really getting that much fat, at least relative to the amount of protein you're getting. Granted, it is very low carbohydrate, but it is super easy to pair with something like fruit. I love doing some frozen mixed berries on top, or you can have some pears, which are gonna give you some more carbohydrates, usually gonna be a little bit sweeter. Chop those up in the cottage cheese. Fantastic combination. Or you could also do just something like an adrenal cocktail or a glass of orange juice on the side. That has worked really well for me. This brand, Good Culture, as the name is shown on the label here, is my favorite. I've been loving it recently. It doesn't have any vitamin D added, which is something I look for, and it also does have some cultures added to it, as you might find in yogurt, which is a great little, boost for your digestive system as well. So that's lovely. Second thing is kind of in that same vein, and it is going to be kefir. You can get plenty of different brands of this. You can choose low fat options, full fat options, just depending on what you are looking for in terms of macronutrients, but even the low fat options, which sometimes I choose because it's going to be a great way, again, to just make sure I'm getting, good bit of protein to start the day and have room to have more fat in other ways later on in the day, I find to be delicious. Trader Joe's has a really great selection. I like to get the fruit flavors, but I will admit they do have some ingredients in them, I'm talking too fast, I'm sorry, that certainly are not necessary. And so if you want to avoid that, what you can do is get the plain kefir, or you could even make it yourself. And then you could just toss it in your blender with some honey and with some fruit of whatever kind you prefer, and kind of make your own flavored kefir from there. They also have at Trader Joe's a goat's milk kefir, which I know my husband really loves because his tummy just can't handle cow's milk, at least pasteurized cow's milk, and the goat's milk version works really nicely for him. The third thing is super simple. Once again, it's just going to be a piece of sliced fruit. My go-to is going to be a sliced up orange, and then a little bit of kind of a softer, milder cheese. The one that I love earlier in the morning is going to be the goat's milk Gouda from Trader Joe's. I've talked about that a ton, but this is just a nice combo. Just make sure you are taking your time chewing up the cheese in particular. So those are the three really fast, really easy things. These next three involve a little bit more preparation, at least up front. The first of which is going to be a yolky coffee-free latte. We'll say a yolky drink, we'll call it that. So you could do this a ton of different ways, and if you want to do a yolky coffee, I make another video on that which I can share here. However, this one is leaving out the caffeine, leaving out the coffee, so you can make sure to get food into your body first. All I did for this is start by putting about a cup of milk on the stove. I just measured in my cup. You can use collagen or gelatin here. I was out of collagen, and so I used gelatin today. It worked really well. Just sprinkle that over your milk to let it bloom, and then after that you can start heating it up and whisking to combine. Just make sure it's bloomed first so you don't have any chunks. And then in your mug, what you're going to do is whisk together 1 pastured egg yolk. You do want to make sure it is pasture raised in order to get the safest egg yolks possible. We could get into a whole conversation about the safety of this, but we'll save that for another video. Comment if you want to talk about it. And then you're going to add whatever kind of sweetener you want. Today I use maple syrup. I also love in this one using molasses. Super delicious and adds a little extra mineral punch. Either way is great. You can use regular sugar if you prefer, and then add whatever sort of spices you like. I love warming spices. I used cinnamon today and ginger, and I added a pinch of mineral rich sea salt. So you want to whisk that up as well as you possibly can. Oh, and I almost forgot about the vanilla I used vanilla bean paste. That gives it a nice little speckled appearance from Trader Joe's, but you can also use just regular vanilla extract. And then once you've whisked that all up really thoroughly, what you're going to do is add in your milk over top. If you're using collagen instead of gelatin, something that you can do is whisk your collagen into the yolky mixture and then just warm the milk however you prefer, or steam it even if you have an espresso maker with a steam wand. I was skeptical about this before I made it, before I tasted it, but y'all, I am obsessed now. First of all, it is so filling, and second of all, it tastes like a cozy snuggle. Like, there's no other way to say it. Not just a hug, like a full-on snuggle. It is so freaking good and cozy. I'm gonna drink this all the time. Okay, next recipe is going to be some delicious egg bites. This, I got the idea from the Starbucks like sous vide egg bites, and now I've seen a bunch of different grocery stores sell them for a ridiculous amount of money given the ingredients. You can look up a recipe for this. There are many online like Starbucks copycat recipes that you can do in the oven, in a sous vide, or kind of a makeshift situation. I just did it in the oven, and today I mixed up some eggs. I had some egg whites left over from my yolky drinks that I've been making, and so I added those to the mixture. I added some goat's milk yogurt to this, which sounds weird, but it's actually a trick that my like 12-year-old little brother, probably like 2 years ago, so when he was like 10, taught me. Adding yogurt to your scrambled eggs or something like that. It's fantastic. It's just fantastic. I added a little bit of heavy cream, some ham. You can do, whatever kind of meat you like, or you can leave it out if you prefer. I didn't add any cheese this time just because I am repeatedly nicking myself on the box grater and I didn't want to touch it today, but you can definitely add some cheese and that would be really delicious. Popped it in the oven in a muffin tin, and this took about 25 minutes to bake, but again, I encourage y'all just look up a recipe online. There are plenty of ones that you can reference. And then the last thing, which is kind of what generated all of the questions about other early morning breakfast ideas, are going to be some gelatin gummies. These are super duper easy to make. You're just gonna need your grass-fed gelatin, some sort of juice, a sweetener if you want it, and then I like to add a little bit of cream. So I often use cherry juice, but they were out at the store this time, so I got cranberry juice, which I've been wanting to try, and it turned out pretty well. They're definitely tart, but I like it. So I added cranberry juice, I sprinkled my grass-fed gelatin on top, once again let it bloom, and just to be clear, I used about 1.5 cups of cranberry juice and then 4 scoops of my gelatin. I whisked that together over like low heat once it had bloomed, and I added a generous bit of maple syrup, multiple tablespoons. You guys just kind of taste it as you go to figure out what works best for you, and then probably about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Again, it's very easy to do and hard to mess up, so just find what ratios work best. I just put it in a bread pan in this case, stick it in the fridge, and then I cut it into little cubes. But great little punch of protein. You got your carbs, you got your fat in there. Super easy in the morning and super easy to eat, especially if you pull it out of the fridge for just a few minutes before you eat it. It softens up, and honestly you barely even notice you're eating it. Anyway, okay, that's the end of the video. I hope these ideas are helpful to you. Please let me know if you have other early morning breakfast ideas. Drop them in the comments. Let me know what works best for you. But I'll see y'all next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.